All right, we're back on Morning Line. Now, we're talking this morning about vouchers, a voucher bill, education voucher for, families to have if they choose to maybe use that voucher to pay for a private education for their child as opposed to the public education. With us this morning is Beth Brown, even though she's wearing red today. She's with the Tennessee Education Association. Nice to have you on, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on. We've got a few phone calls. Let's see what they think, and we'll make our way through this issue and see if we can answer questions. Joe, good morning. Hi, Joe.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey, what's on your mind, my friend?
Just a couple of questions and
Sure.
maybe a comment. What is the income level that you have to get to qualify to get these vouchers? Is the first question. The second question is, not all of these, if I understand it correctly, not all of these private schools are religious-based. To me, it seems like that, and well, where do the teachers come from first? And it seems like to me this is a push towards a way to get the government to pay for private industry to go into the school business. If that's not correct, tell me what I'm wrong about.
All right, Thank you, Joe. Yeah.
So thanks for the question, Joe. I would agree that this is definitely an attempt to have taxpayer dollars and the government come in to pay private industry to take over our schools. This is very much a privatization issue. As far as the income level, so double the federal poverty level. So a family
I'm not sure what that is now.
A family of four, I think it's in the 90,000, a little north of $90,000. So for a family of four would be the income level that would qualify them for this voucher program.
Okay, keep in mind that's double the poverty level. So it's around 45,000 for a family of four. Is that poverty, right? So double it would be 90.
Right.
Because someone's saying 90,000 is a lot of money, and for a family of four, you're not rich, but you're getting by on 90,000. Okay,
Right.
But you're not poor.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but a family of four earning $90,000 would be eligible for this voucher.
I'm just curious, and I know there will be different ranges of how much that's the upper tier, but if a family does get a voucher, and even with that voucher, they then discover we still can't afford this, and so they stay put, but they've got this $7,300 voucher. What is your understanding happens? Does that have to be turned back in? And have there been cases of fraud in other states where they've done this?
Absolutely. That's one of our greatest concerns with this bill is the potential for fraud. In Arizona, for example, where they have had this program for several years and it has actually expanded every single year, there has been significant fraud and use of taxpayer dollars for things like vacations or large screen TVs or beauty treatments and things like that.
Well, I just had this image that a voucher is something, it's kind of like, it's not like cash. Is that voucher literally, they use the word voucher? Does that mean you get a check in the mail for $7,300 you can just put in your bank? Or is this a voucher that you can only use and can only be cashed by an educational facility?
So it's a debit card, and
or debit card, you said.
So it's a debit card, and there are different versions of the bill. But just looking at the House bill, one of the expenses is if the private school you want to attend requires uniforms, you could go purchase uniforms. But let's talk about how easily someone could be fraudulent with that activity. So I go to the store, I purchase my uniforms with this voucher debit card,
and you return it.
And then I return it, and then it becomes store credit, and then I can spend that any way I want to on a new blouse.
Okay. Point taken. That's one thing. We'll see. This has not passed yet, and you would hope that the lawmakers try to think about this and look at what's happened in other states, and if it moves forward, address how we limit that type of exactly what you just said there. Let's go next to Ann. Ann, good morning. Hi, Ann.
Good morning. She just answered one of my questions on the fraud aspect of this. Who will be regulating the fraud? What is the responsibility for documentation at the school levels when these debit cards come in and is used? You're the first person I have heard use the words the government will have somewhat control in the Christian schools if they use voucher dollars. And I hope I said that correctly. You are the first person I have heard use the words, the government will have say-so in that Christian school if they accept the voucher dollars. And who approves these people who get the vouchers? I'm really concerned that this will be abused. We are in an area where there is abuse of every kind. You look at the news, 9 of our physicians just got arrested.
Point taken. I know she raises a question. Go ahead and clarify. You're not saying, and we don't know yet what strings are attached or how, if that would. That's a fear, though, is what maybe you're saying. Some of these schools have asked, and others, about whether or not the government's going to put strings attached to this money if you choose to use it, and say, well, in this school you have to do this or that. I mean, I don't know that that's the case.
Well, depending on which, first of all, thank you, Ann, for the question. So, depending on which version of the bill, actually, if it passes, what the finalized specifics are. In one proposed version, there is some standardized testing required. I mean, it's not,
right.
there are certain requirements that come with this money.
Well, then some of those schools, they don't have to accept them. They can say, right. We're not taking your voucher, sorry.
Right.
And as a private school, they have a right to do that.
Right, so a private school could turn it down, but if they do take the voucher, then some of the stipulations that are outlined in the law would, and that our public schools have to certainly abide by, would go into the private schools. They would be held to those be held accountable to those. As far as Miss Ann asked about regulating fraud and documentation at the school level, this bill would require the state to really create a new level of bureaucracy. There's going to have to be they're actually going to have to be people hired to oversee this, and so what the cost of that are remain to be seen. But there will be a new division or a new department created to oversee all of this.
Yeah, you always wonder how much something in the big picture is going to cost. As you said, it'll balloon beyond $75 million as time goes on. It's a lot of money, and again, that's where, whether you have a kid in school or a dog in this fight, it's your taxpayer dollars we're talking about here, and how they're going to spend it and how they're going to use it, and especially if there's fraud involved. And obviously, Ann's concerned about that. Right. Let's go to Bob. Bob, good morning. Hi, Bob.
Oh yeah. It's a good program. How you doing, Nick and Lady there? My one question is, would homeschooling, those who prefer that, would they get the $7,300 too?
Great question, Bob. Great question. How about homeschooling? I was looking into that here, and again, I'm not sure. Is that clear? Has it been amended to ensure that they could participate? I guess that's the latest. So
I would say, again, this is an ever evolving bill. There are 2 different versions. There's a Senate version of this bill. There is a House version of the bill. One version eliminates homeschooling, and another one does not. So there's a disagreement at the legislature whether or not that would be an appropriate use. And well,
I worry about fraud in that case. I'm not saying someone that's homeschooling is going to be crooked or something. I'm sure they'd be responsible, but that would mean if you're homeschooling, you get that to pay yourself, I guess, to pay for things like textbooks, tutoring, technology. Yeah, that's interesting how that'll play out.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way to track the funds on that and how they're spent. And so I think that that's one of the reasons that the House version of the bill has been amended to
they completely
eliminate
removed
that.
It. They eliminated that, and the House members cited possible issues of fraud in cutting the proposal. And again, like I said, homeschoolers, good kids, good parents, they work hard, but you just, you never know. The question there is just how can you verify is all.
Right.
And so I guess then homeschoolers, at least in the House committee's plan, no.
Correct.
And we don't know about the Senate then, right? It's just a lot different.
The Senate version does permit homeschooling.
Does, okay. Well, see, so as you said, they're real different, aren't
they? And when I say this is an ever-evolving bill, I mean this bill is changing every single day.
Every day with little concerns. So that doesn't mean homeschooling couldn't come back in. Listen, we'll take a break on that. When we come back, Paul, Greg, and others, if you're on hold, stay there. What do you think of the voucher plan? School vouchers, you like the idea? No? If you have a question, join us. She can try to answer right after this.